My name is Steve. Welcome back to my shop and part 2 of the Tom Lipton Chamfer Fixture build. We've got a lot of work to do, got a lot of milling to do, so let's get started. My plan is to surface grind the entire fixture, and I want to wait until the machining is done to do that, because sometimes when you machine it you get a little bit of stress relief in the material and it moves. But the bottom section of it will be extremely difficult to set up on once I get the rest of this machined. So I'm going to just take a light surface grind on the bottom before I do the machining. That shouldn't move. All the machining down there, the drilling and so on, has pretty much been done. So that's all I'm going to do, is just take a light grind on the bottom surface. Got a pretty good finish on it. I'm just going to go to 5/10. For my final cut, I'm going to do 2/10 with my 50,000 step over. Considering the material that I'm using, I'm pretty happy with the finish on that. I took a total of about 6 thousandths off of it. Okay, I got the mill all cleaned up, and I've mounted my 2-piece mill vise on it. It's the first time I've ever used it. I unboxed it a few videos ago. I've got my back plunge indicator on it, and I've got it pretty well dialed in on the fixed jaw. So on 0, now I'm just going to snug it up and make sure that it doesn't move. Okay, that should do it. I put my the movable jaw on it, which has got a little bit of give in it. I set that up with a square, so that should be good. And I'll show you how I'm going to set up the piece to machine it. Okay, the vise is all squared up. I'm going to put a set of V-blocks in here. Okay, I'm going to snug the block up, and now I'm going to run the dial indicator over to make sure that it's parallel. This is my setup for checking the parallel, and I'll be the first to admit that because this has had a burr scraped off of it, that it is not a reference surface. However, I've gone over it with the dial indicator, and I'm at 0 at both ends. It drops a little in the center, which makes sense because there was more pressure when I was doing the deburring. So I'm going to call that parallel. And I've tightened up the vise, rechecked it, and ready to start cutting. I'm using a 3/4 inch high-speed steel Niagara roughing mill. We'll give it a shot. That the mill is getting pulled down out of the collet. I've got to double check that. I got a lot of cutting to do, so I'll bring you back when I'm closer to being finished. Well, I'm about halfway through the cut now. It's been giving me a little bit of a fit. I've been having trouble holding this piece in the vise. I reset up the vise with heavier bolts and heavier T-nuts. I put some adhesive style sandpaper on the jaws, which seemed to be holding it a little better. The piece was slipping in the jaws. The other thing that I did is increase the speed of my cutter, which seems to be cutting much better. I'm actually able to take 50 thousandths cuts now, and before I was only taking 20s. It's 10, 20, 30, 40, there's 50. I slow my feed rate down just a little bit. It's cutting much better now. I'll bring you back when I'm down to my final cut. Okay, I've cut it as far as I want to go in the Y direction. I'm up to almost like a knife edge on this edge here, which I'll have to deburr and file it. I'll put a little radius on it. Now I have to drop it in the Z direction until I open up the pocket into the rear, the pocket for the grinding stone. I've broken through into the rear pocket. And now I'm going to just take a couple of more cuts in the Z direction just to open that up a little bit more. I'm going to clean up now. That's as far as we need to go. I'm going to clean up the mill and reset to cut a grinding relief in here. So I'm going to put this on the surface grinder and grind it. So I'll deburr it so that I can handle it without cutting myself. And I'll bring you back when I have the new setup ready. That should do it. I've got a grinding relief cut in there now. I have watched a few people use these after they have made them, and one of the things that I've noticed is that when they go to slide the material through, it has a tendency to stick a little bit. Now this isn't too bad. I mean, some of them have been made of aluminum, some of plastic. But what I decided to do is that I'm going to take my slitting saw and I'm going to cut grooves, the length, parallel grooves, the length of this surface. And that should help to eliminate the stiction on going through here. So I'm using a 3/32 saw, and I'll do it in 3/32 increments from this edge up to the top. I'm going to set up for that. We'll see how that works out. I was not able to set up and get clearance to use the slitting saw, so I have an 1/8 inch ball nose solid carbide end mill. So I'm going to give that a shot, and I'm going to do the slots at 1/4 inch incremental on my DRO, and that way the slots will be, the space in between the slots will be 1/8. So I'll have an 1/8 inch slot, 1/8 inch space, and so on. So let's give it a try. taking 2 spring passes, I'm getting a pretty good finish on it. Pretty happy with that. Okay, final cut. Okay, that finishes up all the milling. I'm going to take it over to the bench and we'll wrap it up. I'm pretty happy with the way this turned out, and I do believe that the pieces slide along here a lot easier than they did. So this is going to wrap up part 2 of the Tom Lipton Chamfer Fixture build. I'm going to be surface grinding this and bluing it and surface grinding it. So I've had several requests for grinding videos, so I'm going to do the grinding in a standalone video. So stop back and see the finished product. This ends part number 2 of the Tom Lipton Chamfer Fixture build. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.